Mele Kalikimaka. Gulek Jul, Fröhlich Weihnachten. Joyeux Noël, Bon Natale, and Merry Christmas to all of our friends, anywhere you come from, anywhere you are. Today, I'm going to do something a little bit backwards. I'm here in my bright red Christmas shirt, wearing this for the first time actually. It's a bit brighter red than I even realized when I put it on. And I've got my Christmas tie with the Christmas trees on it, and I'm going to do a Christmas edition of a lesson I'm actually teaching next week. So I'm going to go over the outline for next week really fast, because I do want to spend most of my time talking about Christmas, talking about the holidays, and just this season and what people very often do with it that sometimes just robs them of the gusto that they could have if they chose to have it. The outline I'm going to be teaching on next week is called Treasure is Treasure. Subhead is, and trash is trash. The treasure is treasure and trash is trash. This is Pastor Scott Conway at QXChurch. You'll find us online at QXChurch.org. We try to put up a bunch of our sermons available on video as well, and they are available on audio. The outline for next week, just so that we have a basis to understand some of the discussion, and of course come back for the next lesson to get all of this unpacked and taught in much more detail, is this basic idea: treasure is treasure and trash is trash. Avoid turning treasure into trash. If it's treasure, you want it to be treasure. You only want trash to be trash. And conversely, avoid turning trash into treasure. If it's trash, it's trash. If it's treasure, it's treasure. Among our treasures are great times. Great times are great treasures. And after loss, great memories of great times are still great treasures. I lost my father many years ago. More recently, lost my grandfather. Even more recently, my aunt. There were a lot of Christmas traditions when I was growing up. Things that involved grandma and grandpa and involved my father and my aunt. But they're gone now. My grandmother died when I was a teenager. My grandfather only recently. My father died when I was in my 20s. My aunt died even more recently. And when you look at some of these things, it'd be really easy to say, oh, at Christmas I so miss my family. At Christmas I so miss this, I so miss that. What kind of Christmas am I having? I'm going to tell you something about Christmas with my dad. The particular Christmas I remember, I think it was in 1977. I was 12 years old, just turned 12 that past September. We had only recently moved into this new house on Ridgemore Drive, a house up on the hill. We could see the lights of the city, and it was something to behold. People would come over and visit. We always joke, and here is the view. Sorry, you can't take it home with you. That was a great home to be growing up in. Well, we were there, and down in the living room, you'd walk in the entryway, and then you could, unhook the second door. It opened up double doors. You could walk in, take a couple of steps down in the living room. You had this huge vaulted ceiling. Between a couple of steps down and how high it towered up, it was basically about 2 stories tall inside this one room. And so my dad, for his very first Christmas in this brand new house, something I totally agree with, wanted to get a big tree. Want to get a live tree so to inaugurate the first Christmas in this new house. So off we go to a tree farm. One of those places you pick your tree and you actually cut it down and take it home so it's fresh. And we found this huge tree. It seemed like it was 15, 16 feet tall. Might have only been 10 or 12, but this thing was huge. And we loaded up on top of whatever vehicle we have. I seem to think it was the motorhome. Took it to the house and we unloaded it. We're on our way to take it inside, and it won't fit through the double doors. It's too big. It won't go through. And so we kind of try to fold the branches in, and we're pushing and we're pulling and we're prodding and we're shoving and we're jerking and we're twisting and turning it, and we finally managed to get the thing shoved through, stripping it of so many needles. We had a carpet of pine needles in our entryway. Well, we got it in, we set it all up, and you could kind of tell we stripped a whole bunch of needles off of this thing, because first off, they're all lying in the entryway, and you could kind of tell it's a little bit bare, but my mother and I are both pretty artistic when it comes to stuff like this, and so we went to work on the lights, and we went to work on the balls, and the whole family was just decorating the tree. and we got this thing up, and it was stunning. It was absolutely gorgeous. Well, that was in 1977. In 1989, my father would pass away, and he would pass away after a 2.5-year battle with cancer. When I reflect on some of these memories of that Christmas in particular, I could come into the holidays and I could be so sad. Or I could come into the holidays and I could be so grateful that I have this treasured memory, that I have this moment stored in my mind of a great Christmas that included my dad. Now, is there a lot of trash involved in the totality of the thing? Yeah! He and I were at school together. He had gone back to school after building his business. We were on track to graduate together. I remember going and having lunch with him between classes. He would come from his economics class. I would come from my sociology class. We would meet at this one particular cafeteria on campus, and we would sit down and we would visit and we would eat. He'd buy me a nice lunch. Good memories. And that was the year he got diagnosed with cancer. But you know what? The memory is still a good memory. That memory is still a treasure. When I was a kid, my dad worked a lot. The standard refrain is he worked 14 hours a day, 7 days a week for 10 years. Now, that's not 100% true, because he did take time off for vacations. He did try to make an effort to make it to some Little League games. We did see him at home from time to time. But unless he made an effort to get time off from work, he was at work. And my mother used to take us to the business so that we could see where Dad worked and we could see him, so it's not just a picture up on the mantle. There's one particular day my brother had a doctor's appointment or something, so my mother was just dropping me off. And I walked in, I said hi to my dad, and all of a sudden, oh, wait a minute, and he grabbed the phone and he pages Alvin Conway to the sales office, please. My grandfather was there. He had just left. My dad was trying to catch him before he took off for the day. And so my grandfather heard himself being paged. He came back into the office. He had just been on his way out and saw me there. And my dad said, you know what? Since the three of us are here, how about the three of us go out to lunch? 3 generations of Conway men. And off we went down the street, El Cajon Boulevard to 30th Street to Redford's Restaurant, where my grandfather ordered chicken fried steak. My dad ordered chicken fried steak. So, of course, I also had to have my chicken fried steak. And ever since that particular day, I've always loved chicken fried steak. Not just because I think it tastes pretty good, but because every time I have it, it reminds me of that continuity of 3 generations of Conway men out for lunch on that one day. And that's a high point. My father has passed away since then. My grandfather has passed away since then. But you know what? That memory is still a treasure. Great times are great treasures. After loss, great memories of great times are still great treasures. People suffer double if they turn treasure into trash. One is they lose their treasure. So imagine if every time I think of these great moments, my focus goes, oh, my grandfather's gone now. My father's gone now. We can't do this anymore. It's gone. It's over. And I'm living in misery. I'm coming into the holiday season, the holy day season. Thanksgiving, Christmas. And depending how much Halloween stuff you do, count Halloween. And for me, my birthday's in September, so I can go September, October, November, December, into New Year's Day. Big stretch of holidays. I could choose to be sad if I let go of all of my treasure. I could choose to be sad if I gather up all of my trash. I could choose to be sad if I take my treasure and I mangle it into trash and I don't let my treasure be treasure. Something else that's tough is they lose their future treasure. They lose their future treasure. There is a principle that happens in the human heart, and it's called this is that. The this is that is when something is going on that looks like something else you have experience with. The human heart says, oh, I've seen this before. This is that. Now, this can happen in good ways and in bad ways. So when there's a pattern of behavior that used to lead to something, whenever you see that pattern of behavior, the heart will assume that, oh, well, we took step 1, 2, 3, and 4, then next comes 5, 6, 7, and 8, and eventually 9, and then we land at 10. I know this path. I've seen this path. I've watched this unfold before. If you make it a habit of turning your treasure into trash, what happens in the human heart is says, oh, this moment is pretty good. Oh, like that moment was pretty good. This moment looked like it's unfolding in a wonderful way, just like that moment unfolded in a wonderful way. And that moment eventually landed at trash, at pain, at suffering, at anguish, at loss. And so this wonderful moment, if it keeps going the way it's going to land at pain and anguish and misery and loss. And then the heart pulls back from the treasure. It's treasure. And the human heart will pull away from it. I don't trust the treasure because it could turn into trash. This has happened to me before. And you lose the treasure. It's in my heart that everyone have their treasure. It's in my heart that everyone find their treasure. The people who turn treasure into trash suffer double. I don't want you to suffer any more than life makes you suffer. I certainly don't want you losing the treasure because it's been let go and turned into trash. I don't want you missing the treasure when it's coming to you. Because there's treasures in life. Deep things that you can savor. If your human heart can accept it and live in it. There is a flip side. People do endanger themselves when they turn trash into treasure. We'll talk about this more next week. The idea here is if something bad happens, but you learn something good out of it. If something bad happens, but you grow into a better you through it, it's still trash. The treasure is what you learn. What happened is still trash. That which we treasure, we seek. So always remember, trash is trash. When bad things happen, the bad thing is a bad thing. What good you can find in it, what good you can bring out of it, that's the treasure. So learn to separate treasure from trash. The bad is still bad. That's the trash. The great powerful lesson learned is a treasure. The loss to still be trash. I mean, I'm not glad that my father died. I'm not glad that my grandfather died. That's not treasure. But the moments that we had a chance to create while I was a kid, that's treasure. The moments, the holidays that we had, that's treasure. I might have been 8 years old. We lived in a house on Bob Hurd Drive in the San Carlos area of San Diego, not far from Cowles Mountain. In fact, it was very common for us to hop on our bikes and go riding off to Cowles Mountain, even go walk to the mountain so we could go up the mountain. One particular Christmas, I'm getting a little skeptical about the Santa guy. I'm not so sure about this. Now, the year before, maybe it was the year before that, Santa actually showed up at the house. Then we had a fire in the fireplace, so he couldn't come down the fireplace. Guy might have gotten burned, so he came in the back doors and ho, ho, ho. He looked suspiciously like one of the neighbors, but I didn't notice that at the time. He had his bag full of toys, and he remembered what I told him that I wanted when I sat on his lap at the mall. I don't know how he knew this thing. And especially since he looked a little bit different. I wasn't sure if he would totally remember it. Maybe he had plastic surgery or something. Hard to tell. But he shows up with a ho-ho-ho and a bag full of toys. And I don't know which of the neighbor gentlemen it was that was playing Santa that year, but that was quite an experience. But nonetheless, the next couple of years, I'm getting a little bit skeptical now. And so as a little Santa quiz, I asked Santa, can you tell me the names of your reindeer? Well, if I ask you the names of all the reindeers, you might be thinking, okay, let's see, it was the night before Christmas on Dasher, on Dancer, or you might be remembering Rudolph, like, you know Dasher and Dancer, and you might remember it that way. Well, my parents could not remember. They didn't know. So they're on the phone. I mean, think about it. This is the early 70s. No internet. They can't look it up. They're pretty sure it's in this little book of 'Twas the Night Before Christmas that's in my room with me. So they can't very well sneak in and try to take my book because they might wake me up, and if they wake me up in the middle of all of the Christmas stuff, that could be a problem. They went as far as calling one of my dad's old friends up in, I think it's San Francisco, and asking him, do you know the names of all the reindeer? They never did come up with the names of all the reindeer. As I recall it, and remember I was maybe 7 or 8 years old, as I recall it, they got a partial list. They had Dasher and Dancer and Prancer and Vixen, and they got kind of fuzzy after that. So they made up some names and let me know that the other reindeer were sick, and so these reindeer stepped in to fill the gap on this Christmas. Well, you know, you're 7 or 8 years old. That sounds reasonable, right? Can't be the same reindeer every year. You know, they might get tired. They could get sick. Well, I did learn something in the next couple of years. One is that if you don't believe in Santa, you get underwear for Christmas. So boy, did I believe in Santa for a long time. Because you got the cool stuff you believed in Santa. Now, something that I tell the kids is, when I was little, I believed in Santa Claus. By the time I was a little bit older, 10 years old or so, I didn't believe in Santa anymore. I didn't think he was real. And then when I was 18, I met him. Actually, I think I met him, 18. So 18, I met him. I met the real Santa. And I think that my son and some of the other young people that I get the honor of teaching and training are suddenly meeting the real Santa in their own lives, too. It's very exciting when that happens. When you find out who Santa really is, and you get to be part of the team. A lot of great memories. When I was a kid, used to go to Hawaii. Not every Christmas, but some Christmases. Now, there's a principle in Hawaii called ohana. Ohana is family. Now, if you've seen Lilo and Stitch, ohana means family. Family means no one gets left behind. But the idea of ohana isn't just your blood relatives. What I found when I was young is ohana is anyone you're related to and anyone you like. And anyone who's related to anyone you like. And anyone who's liked by anyone you're related to. Ohana is this huge concept. And it's very easy if you kind of like someone and there's any Hawaiian connection, you're cousins. Calabash cousins. And there's certain types of behavior that's considered Hawaii. It's just what you do in Hawaii. In fact, as an example of Hawaiian culture, I was on a cruise there in 2000. The cruise ship was putting in Hilo, and then it was going to sail around the island, around the southern tip, and put into Kona the next day. Well, I'd made friends with another woman that was there who had a 15-year-old son. The 15-year-old son misread the times and didn't make it back to the ship. Mom is, of course, in a panic. I mean, here we've left port. She can't find her son. Now, on modern cruise lines, you know exactly who's missing. Everyone gets checked in and scanned in, and you know exactly what's going on. And ship to shore, get in touch with the police in case the police get them. Get in touch with the cruise line main office in case someone contacts the cruiser's office saying, you know, I'm stuck in Hilo, what do I do? But those of us who were familiar with Hawaiian culture kept trying to assure the mother he'll be fine. In fact, there's a reasonably good chance he'll beat us to Kona. The next morning, we put into Kona. We get on the little transports from the ship to go into the dock. And guess who's there on the dock waiting and waving when he sees his mom coming ashore? The taxi cab driver that had taken him to the port. Realizing along with this young man, said, well, clearly your ship's left. But I happen to know that ship is going to Kona tomorrow, so you come home with me, we'll feed you dinner, hang out with my kids, and in the morning I'll take you over there to meet the ship. And he's willing to do this free of charge. Now, the 15-year-old kid, in his graciousness, gave him what money he had. Wouldn't have been nearly enough to pay for an overnight stay and the taxi ride to the other side of the island. But that's the culture. So I was there as a kid. And I got so many Christmas presents, it was crazy. I didn't know these people. But some of them, they had met the family, they liked the family. So your family. Some of them, they didn't even know our family that much, but they knew that my family was there with kids, and they liked my relatives that lived in Hawaii, and they bought presents. And then on New Year's Eve, they allowed you, I don't know if they still do, but back then they allowed you to set off fireworks. You could set off fireworks, firecrackers, all kinds of stuff. Oh, that was so much fun. Crazy dangerous. Nobody got hurt, though. Sometimes I think that's a miracle in and of itself. Great memories. I don't get to go to Hawaii anymore. Last time I was there was 2000. Before that, not really even sure. Maybe the 80s? Possibly even the 70s. Used to be a thing. We'd go every year. I think I was in Hawaii 15 times by the time I was 12. Sometimes we'd go twice in a year. Sometimes for 2 or 3 weeks. Great memories. Great memories when my mom and dad were together. They subsequently divorced. But does the divorce, is that treasure or trash? That's trash. The breakdown of the relationship, treasure or trash, that's trash. The great trips to Hawaii, that's treasure. The trip to Yellowstone, that's treasure. The trip to the Grand Canyon, that's treasure. To treasure the treasures. Recognize the trash is still trash. It's still garbage. That's not good. I don't want any more of that. But to hang on to the treasure. To learn to separate the treasure from the trash. Now, sometimes people learn great things from going through trash. They learn great things about relationships from losing relationships, from going through breakups, from going through divorce, from going through loss. Sometimes people learn great things from going through illness, dealing with an accident. Sometimes people learn great things by losing their job and stepping it up. Sometimes people learn some powerful lessons in their life through the bad things that happen to them. But you know what? All those bad things, they're still trash. You separate the treasure from the trash. And if you understand that, instead of going, well, you know, I'm glad this happened because it really gave me some perspective. You know, that ended up being the best thing for me because I learned compassion. You're going through this, boy, did I grow up. No! That's still trash. The fact that you learned the things that matured you, the maturity is the treasure. When the disciples got scorned, they got dishonored, and they celebrated, they were counted worthy to suffer dishonor for his name. The dishonor was trash. The worthiness is the treasure. They don't go seeking more scorn. They go seeking more worthiness. Now, the scorn may come along with it, but if you just want to get scorned, there's all kinds of ways to get scorned. Some of them are really pretty terrible. And the scorn is totally justified. But if you're getting scorned because you're worthy, the worthiness is the treasure. And God causes all things to work together for good for those who love God and are called according to his purposes. The bad stuff is still bad stuff. The good that God brings through it, that's treasure. The bad thing's still trash. You distinguish between the two. maybe you and your wife have a terrible fight, terrible issues, terrible things coming up. And in the process, even more bad things happen, and it just looks like it's all crumbling. And then somewhere in here, it's like a wake-up call, and both of you can step it up, and you make it better, you make it powerful, you make your marriage a treasure. And sometimes some people get this idea in their heads, like, boy, aren't we glad we went through that? Aren't we glad we had such a breakdown in our marriage that it let us both see? Aren't we glad that we lost our job and we faced bankruptcy and the house got foreclosed, and because look at how it brought us together? Aren't we lucky that the October fires came through and burned down our home and burned up all of our stuff, because look at how it made us treasure our family? To which I say, no! The bad stuff is bad stuff. The trash is trash. The treasure is the learning. The treasure is the realization that the stuff isn't the core of life. The core of life is the family. The bad stuff of the breakdown of the relationship, the destruction of the family finances, the loss of the house, the foreclosure, that's bad stuff. That's trash. The treasure is the rallying together to get through this. And if you understand that, now you can seek treasure without waiting for trash. So long as you credit the trash for the treasure, you're trading your heart to wait for trash to go find treasure. The trash is trash. The treasure is the treasure. Always treasure your treasure. And then treasure hunt. To savor treasures. Treasure hunt. I've told you about some of the Christmases that I've had in the past. I used to have a Christmas tradition. I did this for a few years, so it wasn't a really long-standing tradition. I would go to Las Vegas for a couple of weeks, get a little tree, decorate the tree, and enjoy all the Christmas decorations all over Las Vegas. And that got to be a Christmas tradition that was sort of building. Originally started off as about a 1-week trip around the holidays, eventually turned into about a 2-week trip, routinely crossing over Christmas. Saved a lot of the family politicking, and it was amazing. Boy, did they do some Christmas decorations in Las Vegas. You go down to the resort district and you see what some of these places have done, and it's stunning. It really is stunning. And I used to just love wandering up and down the strip and in and out of all these casinos and enjoying the Christmas carols at the Bellagio fountains, and it was just a wonderful time. Well, eventually the relationship that was wrapped around or grew out of, that ended. But let me ask you a question. The end of that relationship, trash or treasure? That's trash. The great Vegas trips, the great time of play, the cute little Christmas tree, the live tree that we would get in the condo for 2 weeks when it turned into a 2-week trip. Trash or treasure? That's treasure. Does it stop being treasure because the relationship ended? No, it's still treasure. Last year, we got to do this great trip to Palm Desert. Last year, we went out to a 2-bedroom condo, got to spread it. I don't know how my wife did it. Somehow she brings all of the Christmas stuff. So we can still do the Christmas cookies and the Christmas craft and have all of the Christmas stuff. And the Christmas jammies, which is another family tradition. And I don't know how they did it. Maybe FaceTime, maybe Skype. But my kids somehow had a craft party with their friends in San Diego while we're in Palm Desert, doing crafts by video and just having this great party with all their friends over, but over in the virtual environment. And everyone just had an amazing time. We took the tram up to the top of the mountain of the Palm Springs tram. We went up to the snow up there. Somehow my wife caught this perfect picture. It turns out one of our teenagers had thrown a snowball in her direction, and about the same time she's taking a picture, you can actually see the snowball in the air, flying at her. Didn't hit her, but kind of flew toward her, and she's got a picture of that. And so we got to spend some time up in the snow and playing in the snow, but then staying down in the desert. We got to do some mini golf at the Marriott there and hang out and go see sights and enjoy that time. It was so much fun. Went to the Cabazon dinosaurs. Went into the little dinosaur display thing and hit the Cabazon malls, which the children have officially dubbed the Mall of Satan, because there's nothing there for them to buy. It's kind of, the kind of higher end, it's a grown-up mall. And so we gave them each some money, and then they got to walk down to the A&W, where they got some fried cheese curds and some root beer floats, and they just had a great time down there. And as it turns out, the walk down to the A&W from where we left them was a shorter walk than it was from one end of the mall to the other end of the mall. And so they got to go hang out as siblings with the extra friend that we had there, and they just had a great time. And meanwhile, Dawn and I got to wander through the rest of the mall, and we also had a great time. And I had my little adventure going and parking. Now let me tell you something. The parking is trash. But the manliness I get to demonstrate, taking care of my family, taking care of my wife, by the simplest of things, of dropping them off and driving to the far side of the mall to park and then jogging back to join them, that service I get to perform for them, that's treasure. How bad the parking is, that's trash. So I don't need to wait until the parking's that bad before I go serve my family. I can serve my family whether parking's bad or not. I can serve my family whether we're going to a mall or not. By stepping up and being the dad, being the husband, being the man, doing these kind of things that is a great example for my sons. And something admired and appreciated by my wife. That's treasure. The loss can still be trash. We don't get to do that this year. This year we're at home, and part of what makes being at home particularly hard this time is we have accommodations. We have a 2-bedroom condo for free in Las Vegas, but we don't have the time and the money and the coordination to make a meaningful trip there. I guess we could, go and enjoy ourselves. But for the drive out there, trying to coordinate with everyone's schedule, and I'll tell you, boy, when your kids get to be teenagers and adults, sometimes that schedule gets to be a hard thing. I mean, I had an idea for something I want to do as a family this last summer. And as simple a thing as I trimmed it down to like this 4-day thing. All I needed was a long weekend. And we didn't have one. We had one kid heading off to the Philippines, scheduled for 3 weeks. We had 2 going to Peru on a mission trip, scheduled for 2 weeks. We had Boy Scout camps with 2 of them heading off to Boy Scout camp. We had a business trip to Las Vegas. Lots of fun, but it's also not a family trip. And not all of the family gets to go on that trip because not all of them are involved in the dojo leadership, which is what that was for. And ultimately, found there wasn't a 4-day block. We had everyone. And so more and more, treasuring these memories is the treasure. A few years ago, we got to go to Las Vegas at Christmas time. Stayed in a place there, went to go see Trans-Siberian Orchestra live. They were coming to Las Vegas. That year, I don't know if they were coming to San Diego, but they were coming to Las Vegas. And we coordinated the time, we had the money for the tickets, we took the kids there. Everybody had an amazing time. Now, while we had all of the boys, they wanted to go to the gold and silver pawn shop where Pawn Stars was filmed. They wanted to go to the gun store. Not normal stops when it's the grown-up trip, but they had a blast. They wanted to see these places and go in there and buy some things, and they just had an amazing time, and that was wonderful to do. Well, I could face a year like this and say, well, we can't do that this year. Well, if I start doing that, what am I doing? I'm turning the treasures of our history into trash. I'm saying that treasure only gets to be treasure if I can keep stacking more and more treasures. That's not so. Treasure is treasure. Let your treasure always be treasure. And a treasure hunt to savor treasures. Dawn and I were apart for a while, just this last month. She had headed off to Wisconsin because she's going to be the grandma. So she's doing the grandma thing. So she's in Wisconsin. It's cold in Wisconsin at this time of year. Sometimes the temperatures would get to double digits with a negative number in front of it. Oh, it was cold. Dropped her off at the airport in the morning. And then that night, I head off to Las Vegas. I've got this business thing going on in Las Vegas. Had some time to go see some sights. I didn't know how much time I would have. I figured I would have some. On one particular day, someone who had invited me, a colleague had invited me to an event, but had to double check to make sure that was okay. Because she said, sometimes we're allowed to have guests, and sometimes we're not. And I would like to invite you to join our organization and be part of the group for this, but I have to double check to make sure it's okay for us to have a guest. And she checked, and it wasn't. So suddenly I have my late afternoon and my evening free, and so my late afternoon and evening free, I just said, well, here I am in Las Vegas all by myself. That all of my friends and colleagues have headed off on their merry way, and I'm just alone. No wife, no kids. What am I going to do? Well, I decided, I'm going to go do some treasure hunting. Now, in this case, I actually went on a physical hunt for treasure. Because, I got married in Las Vegas. I got married down at the Mandalay Bay in the wedding chapel. We stayed our honeymoon night in the hotel in a nice suite. And I thought, while I was out and about, what would be fun? I'm going to go on a photographic scavenger hunt. I'm going to go back and I'm going to go to some of the places that I was at and take pictures of things that's part of the wedding day and the honeymoon. And I went out and I said, oh, there's the buffet that we had our reception at. Snapped a picture of the buffet. Down the walkway was the wedding chapel. It was closed for the day, but I took a picture of the outside and took some pictures through the windows of the wedding chapel I got married in. Down the walkway a little bit more is the wedding photographer's place. Took a picture of that too, enjoying my time. Now, the shark reef. We didn't actually go to the shark reef on the wedding day or during the honeymoon, but my boys did, because my brother took them. Because after the wedding, we went upstairs to our suite in the hotel. And we were going to host everyone there for an hour, hour and a half, and then we head downstairs for the buffet reservation for the reception. And the cake was going to be down the wedding. It was going to be a great time. But my mother and my brother had a chat. And they decided, this brand new husband and wife might kind of like to spend some time alone together. It's Vegas. It's Mandalay Bay. It's Mandalay Place. It's the hotel. There's plenty for everyone to do. They don't need to be in the brand new married couple suite. Let's give them some time alone. So my brother, we had a suite at the hotel. He had a suite over at the Four Seasons. He took everyone over to his suite so that Dawn and I could be alone together. And then along with his sons, my nephews, whose ages kind of like plunk them right in between some of my boys, took them over to Shark Reef to kill some time. And Dawn and I got to spend some time alone together. So I go down to Shark Reef, take a picture of Shark Reef, take a picture of the little store. And I don't go in. I don't want to spend the money in the couple of hours of time to do that. But get some pictures from that. I'll spend the money and go take the time to go through that when I have my lady with me. Now then I did something that was a little bit unusual, is I went to the hotel. Took some pictures of the entryway, took some pictures in the VIP room. I walked in and I told them the story of what I was doing. So that way they just look up and go, okay, this guy walks in the VIP room and he starts taking pictures and he leaves. What was that all about? So I tell them the story of what I am doing. That I'm off on a scavenger hunt. I'm taking pictures from memories connected to my wedding and my honeymoon, and that we got to check in at the VIP room when we were here for our wedding. And I walked in here in my tux. You guys took great care of me, got me off to my wedding in plenty of time, told them some of the story. And then it was suggested that maybe, if I would like to see inside the room, I could go check with the front desk. So I went and checked with the front desk. They said I needed to check with the concierge. Checked with the concierge. Concierge says, oh, we do tours at 2 o'clock. So if you would like to come back tomorrow at 2 o'clock, I'd be happy to show you one of the suites. Well, it's evening time by this point in time. Well, I'll be gone by 2 o'clock tomorrow. In fact, by 2 o'clock the next day, I was back in San Diego. And so I told her the story that, oh, we had gotten married here a few years ago, stayed in the hotel, got to check in VIP. You guys took great care of me. I want to tell you a story of my wife when she was a little girl. She used to have this recurring dream, and this recurring dream she used to have was floor-to-ceiling windows in some great penthouse suite with a view to everywhere. And the first time she saw the view out of the Mandalay and the hotel windows down the strip, she realized that's the view to everywhere. Looking out the window, I can see Egypt, I can see ancient castles, I can see New York City, I can see Paris. It's all there, view to everywhere. And so I was just hoping I was going to get a chance to get a picture of a view to everywhere from inside one of the suites. But that's okay. Thank you for listening to my story. You have a great evening. And she said, okay, wait a minute. Okay, that just sent chills down my spine. Hang on a minute. Let me see what I can do. And she got up and she went to the front desk, and the front desk went to talk to the manager, and the manager said, okay. 5 minutes later, I'm upstairs in a suite. Floor-to-ceiling windows with a view to everywhere. Taking a few pictures inside the suite as part of the memories. Treasure hunting from a great trip. And as we're coming down, she tells me, you might want to go up to the Mix nightclub. It hasn't flipped over to a nightclub yet, so there's no admission fee, and there's floor-to-ceiling windows, and there is a view to everywhere that is just breathtaking. You need to go see that. And so I went to go see that, too. Took some more pictures. Went through Mandalay Place, which is the mall stretching between Mandalay Bay and Luxor. Stopped into one of Dawn's favorite shops, Nora Blue. Took some pictures from the outside and some of the displays. Some of the things there. Chatted with the owner. Told the owner the story. She tried to get me to buy some stuff for her. Admittedly, I was inclined, but I'm going to leave the shopping for her own stuff to Dawn. But we had a great visit. Took a few pictures inside, and so that goes in the collection too. Popped over to Jean-Philippe Patisserie, particularly the one at the Aria. Pictures of some of the beautiful art there, and the tiramisu, because I always try to buy Dawn a tiramisu from Jean-Philippe Patisserie when we're in Vegas. Texted that one to her right away. And then I took all these pictures, I put them in an album collection, and then I gave them to my wife to show her I was thinking about her while I was gone. And I took the time to go treasure hunt some of these great memories. Now, are things like they were on our wedding day? Well, of course not. Are things like they were on our honeymoon? Also, of course not. But there's treasure there. Treasure worth hunting. And so I got to go hunt. Now, you don't have to go hunting so physically, like I literally did. You could just be sitting around and reflecting on what are some of the highlights of my life. What are some of the highlights of my marriage? What are some of the highlights of my time growing up? Even if you grew up in a wildly dysfunctional home, even an abusive childhood, there were highlights. There were moments. There were treasures scattered here and there. And go hunt for those, savor those, collect those. Now you can also trash hunt. The reason you want to trash hunt is to take out the trash, to take it out. Not to hang on to it, not to treasure the trash. It's trash. You take out the trash. Sometimes you might have to deal with the trash. Sometimes you can just toss it aside. When you lose somebody, it's hard to just toss that aside. You have to deal with it. Go through it. come out the other side. Sometimes taking out the trash part is a process. There's grieving to be done. But the goal is still to take it out. Not to treasure it, not to live by it, not to make it central in your life, not to make it the centerpiece of your identity. It's trash. So if you want to deeply savor your treasure life, go treasure hunt. Think about your Christmases. Maybe you're missing somebody this Christmas. Maybe you wish a dad was around, a mom was around. Maybe you wish things were different. Maybe you wish you could have this Christmas some stuff you had last Christmas or the Christmas before, some Christmas past. Maybe you realize you've been ignoring treasure because you left the trash attached to it. Take out the trash and bring the treasure into the storehouse of your heart, into your treasure chest, and treasure the treasures. Maybe you've turned some treasures into trash. And if you actually turn your treasures into trash, turn it back. Let it be treasure again. Maybe it's some great highlights from an old relationship. The way things used to be when you got along with your sister. The way things used to be in an old romance or with your friends from college or high school. But it's not like that anymore. Adult responsibilities and the sometimes unfortunate happenings of growing up life have landed you in a place that maybe you're not super happy with this year. It's still Christmas. Joyeux Noël, joyful news. Meant to refer to the birth of Jesus Christ. But think about Joyeux Noël, joyful news. What are your joyful moments? Give me a report of your top 10 Christmas memories. And really connect with them. And resist the temptation to flip it back into trash. Let it be treasure. And when you do that, begin to feel like you really have a pretty darn good life. And the holidays can be fantastic. Because there's so much to be done. So much to be savored. I was alone in Las Vegas, wandering around, looking at the Christmas decor. Walking by myself down the hallway at the Wynn, and then I see this beautiful, amazing flower display, mostly roses, this moving carousel. And it would be so easy to say, oh, I'm here by myself. I have nobody to share this with. It's spectacular. Man, talk about a treasure. Got a lot of pictures of that. Took some video too because the carousel was actually moving around. I can still share that. Posted it up on social media. Created a whole album so I could share it with people. So just because they're not there with you doesn't mean you can't share it. And even if you have no one to share it with now, you can share it with others later. It's still treasure. Am I going to focus on the treasure? Or am I going to let it be trash because I refuse to see it unless it's perfect? Life is rarely perfect. You have your perfect moments. But let it be treasure. Treasure is treasure. As we come into the holidays, whether it's what you wish it was or not, if this is your greatest Christmas ever, savor that. And let it be treasure right here, right now, and forever. Maybe it's not your greatest Christmas. Maybe it's a lousy Christmas. Maybe it's your worst Christmas. Maybe it's your first Christmas since you've left home and you're in San Diego in the Navy or the Marines. You've been through your training. You're separated from your family. You know, maybe you've gone away to college and you kind of thought it was going to be all that and that you'd be able to go home for the holidays and, you know, there just isn't really quite the budget to do that and so you're kind of all by yourself at Christmas time. Maybe you're looking around, you're seeing all these families connecting and wishing you had a family to connect with. All these friends going to parties and you feel, but I don't have friends to go to parties with. And you do all of that, you're looking at other people's treasure like it's trash to you. Enjoy the treasure even if it's in somebody else's life. And when you start to do things like that, you can start to find more treasure. You'll see something in someone else's life. You'll see something nearby and go, oh, wait a minute. I can have some of that treasure. So if you were right here right now, you walk to the back corner over there, you'll see this gorgeous Christmas village. It's amazing. It really is. Then I've got a bunch of boxes there in the corner, and as I was treasuring all the great things about the holidays, and one of the great things about the holidays is this Christmas village that we didn't have room to set up. And I'm looking at those boxes and thinking, if I restack those boxes some, I can kind of make sort of a tabletop there that might be big enough to accommodate the village. And then we have our ice sheets, which is styrofoam insulation all cut off on the edge so it looks like ice edges. And I could probably use that to kind of layer some things. And so I went and got that out of storage and set it up. And yeah, that looks pretty cool. And then I got all of our village pieces and I laid them all out. I think I like that treasure. And then I headed off to Vegas. I come back and there's people and there's trees and a dragon in the corner. And there's snow. And that one of my teenage sons looked at it and go, oh, that's awesome. Wait, we have other stuff. Where's the other stuff? And off he goes digging through for other stuff. I come home and it's just decked out. Treasure, more treasure. Now, if you want to think trash, go, oh, well, we didn't light it all up. It should have been lit up. Excuse me, it's treasure. It's awesome treasure. It might not be as awesome as it theoretically, hypothetically could be, but it's treasure. It's gorgeous. And you know what? I'm going to enjoy the gorgeous because it's gorgeous. That's treasure. We have a blow-up tree, one of those trees the little fan comes on and kind of, the poofy, cartoony, air trees. Now, I could go, we used to be able to do a real tree with real decorations. Oh, I miss those days. It got crashed into by jiu-jitsu. It got destroyed. People wrestling around and slamming into it. People playing with the big balls and stuff and slamming into it. Eventually, the tree died. It was an artificial tree. The artificial tree died. It got pretty messed up. And so we said, okay, well, let's get the blow-up tree out here. And so we went and bought a blow-up tree. And so now if a ball hits it, if someone crashes into it, no big deal. Nothing's getting broken. No one's getting cut glasses and all over the place. It's fine. And guess what's happened? People have crashed into it. Balls are crashed into it. All of these used to happen before. But we have a tree. That's treasure. We have a village. That's treasure. I got to go on a scavenger hunt for pictures reminding me of my wedding and honeymoon. Treasure. I got to see all the Christmas stuff in Las Vegas. Even though I was by myself, I was still there. I got to see it. Treasure. Last year, we had a spectacular trip. The Palm Desert. Treasure. A couple of years ago, we had a great Vegas trip to go see Trans-Siberian Orchestra as a family. Treasure. I had a honeymoon in Vegas with my wife and my brand new 4 sons. Treasure. Got to go running through Death Valley with them at the end of the honeymoon. Treasure. We got to go to Orlando for 2 weeks. Treasure. My dad and I had to push and pull and shove and prod and pry to get this tree through the door. Left a carpet of pine needles in the entryway. Treasure. Chicken fried steak down at Redford's with Grandpa and Dad. Treasure. Some relationships lost. The treasure is still treasure. Some elements of childhood never to be repeated. Treasure is treasure. People have passed away. Treasure is treasure. It's Christmas. when Jesus Christ was born as a child, the ultimate treasure coming into this world. It's the season for treasure. And my wish for you and my prayer for you is that you would live in your treasure. Now this is the Christmas edition of Treasure is Treasure, Trash is Trash. Next week I'll be teaching the principle more. I believed it was important for me to talk about in this holiday context, because I've had conversations with people who are turning their treasure in the trash. Who, because this year doesn't look like last year, because this year doesn't look like when they were a kid, they're living in their trash and they're turning trash into treasure into trash. No, no, no. Treasure. Let your treasure be treasure. Let your partner's treasure be treasure. If my wife has great Christmas memories from when she was a girl, if she has great Christmas memories from her previous relationships, that's still treasure. And it is not in my heart to turn any of her treasure into trash, or to let her, what is treasure to her, or treasure to any of you, be trash to me, just because I don't have it. I want to have joy over your treasure. And I want to have joy over all of my own treasure. So let's celebrate this Christmas. Joyeux Noël. Joyful news. Mele Kaliki Maka. Fröhlich Weihnachten. Gulig Jul. Feliz Navidad. Whatever other languages you happen to know Merry Christmas in. Merry Christmas. Have a very merry, merry, treasure-filled Christmas.